Recording is now running. So let me just kind of cover some stuff that kind of stuck out to me on that. And then, like I said, if you guys have questions, you can go ahead and unmute and come out. There was a lot of questions about this particular module in the beginning. I think just because a lot of people weren't familiar with navigating the Google tools and were not familiar, with doing keyword research and that sort of thing. It's really not that difficult, but I know setting that account up, that's why I did it screen by screen, so it would actually walk you through exactly step by step how to get the account set up. But one of the things, Google is really good at brainstorming. It's a great brainstorming partner, and that was really the whole point to this exercise, is putting keywords in, seeing what keywords are related to those, so you kind of have an idea. If you're searching for a particular thing, what else are people searching in relationship to that thing, whatever it may be. The other thing is, as you're looking at those, remember the first job in ACT is to find a profitable market segment. So as you were looking at that, you can see the demographics. You can see demographics in there. If you have a really young audience, they may not be able to afford your product or service depending on what it is. So by shifting those keywords around, you can see those numbers are changing. They're updating dynamically as you change your parameters. So you can kind of see, oh, maybe this set of keywords might be good where another set might be not so good. So that's really all you're trying to do here. And once you learn this, you might find yourself coming back to this on a fairly regular basis just to research stuff. Because if you're anything like me, you get opportunities that come across your plate almost on a daily basis. I mean, for me, sometimes it's by the hour. And if I've got something where I can just, pop in and take a look, does this make sense or is this viable? That's something that you might find yourself able to use this for once you kind of get your feet under you and you get to know this program a little bit better. It's really easy to use. And again, it can give you access to data that Facebook cannot. Facebook is their Insights, which we're going to cover next week, is a great tool. It's probably even better than this one. But the Google tool gives you access to an entire world of data. Facebook gives you access to the data inside its community. But Google is the entire world. So you can get a lot more information out of that. It does not get as detailed and specific. The cool thing about the next module in Facebook is you can get down to the nitty-gritty demographics of who's inside that little Facebook shell, which is extremely powerful. But again, focused more on the Google Demographics tool, the cool thing about that is it is your best brainstorming buddy, because I'm not going to say Google's not going to lie to you, because that's not quite true either, but it's a great tool to bounce those ideas. It's not going to give you 100% accurate data. If you noticed, when it said how many impressions you were going to get, there was a range. This is a new thing over the last maybe year or so. Google has been stripping out, hiding some of that particular data. So now they just kind of give you a range, so you don't, you're guessing it's inside that range. But just know, if the higher the range, the more searches there are for that particular keyword. It's just kind of common sense. So that's what I use this tool for. And again, you might find yourself just vetting opportunities as they come your way. Because like I said, if you're anything like me, you will start getting opportunities, especially when you start doing marketing. When people figure out, hey, you're doing marketing, they're going to run ideas by you. They're going to want you to do stuff for them. They're going to want your feedback. And again, this just gives you another tool where you can easily vet those ideas. Like if they give you an idea and you run it in there and you see there's nobody searching for that, that's probably not the best of ideas. So it's really cool for that. Or, you might find that, hey, they're really onto something here. I should jump on this. That's the kind of information it will actually give you. The other thing too, I mentioned, as you go forward, I know the first part of the program is all about segmentation and finding your most profitable audience. But once you get to the competitor analysis, after you've figured out your segment and you've created your avatar, the next thing you're going to do in the ACT program is you're going to do competitor analysis to figure out how those competitors are acquiring clients, what they're using, what their language is, where they're advertising. And that's where you might want to come back in and run those particular URLs, like their website, run that in the demographics tool and see what the demographics of their audience is. You might find that they're right on the money, and you might find that, wow, they're really taking a hit because they don't know what they're doing. And I see that a lot. So don't take it like, let's say you get a competitor and you think, okay, this is my competitor, so I'm going to do exactly what they do. That is not a good idea unless you know without a shadow of a doubt that what they're doing is working. But I've seen, I've done a lot of competitor research. When I look at what they're doing, I'm like, oh my God, I wouldn't touch that. So don't take that as you should be copying them. You just want to understand what they're doing, and this is a great tool to do that. So keep that in mind. It's not about, plagiarism and copying. It's about seeing what they're doing and crafting a better offer. So if nothing else, you want to take what they're doing and improve upon it, even if they are doing good. So that's what it's all about. And to me, this seems like a really simple tool. So I know there was some confusion in the beginning, and I don't think we had the clarity, but I think we have a lot more clarity on it now. So do you guys have questions? Anything you can think of in relationship to the demographic planner? No questions out there. All right. No, somebody popped out. Mary Sue, is that you?
It's me.
How's it going?
Well, we're finally up and running, so it's certainly better than last week.
Well, that's good. You're headed in the right direction.
Every little bit of progress I'll take. So I have a question. I'd like to see you do a competitor for something that you don't know. So say, you've got a competitor, you have no clue what they might be doing. And
okay.
You just want to, I'd like a demonstration of how you go about that.
Okay, well, in the Google Planner, all you would do, where I put the keyword in there?
Yeah.
And we ran the search for that particular keyword. All you would do there is you just replace that with their domain name.
Oh.
And when you hit that, it's going to show you what keywords Google believes that is related to that site, and it will show you all the demographic information related to those keywords. So it's really cool for running on a competitor. Another thing I would also recommend is run it on your own site and see if Google is in alignment with what you think your site is about. I've found a lot of times when I do SEO for clients, I'll run their site in there just to see how well Google thinks that they're related to what we think they are. And sometimes I'll find that like Google thinks they're about something totally different. And if you're trying to optimize Google for something that they think you're different, you're going to have a very steep hill to climb.
Wow.
So, hey, John, I have a question about that.
Okay.
Why would it, what are the mechanics that would make Google Google recognize my site as out of alignment? Is it the words I use, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to convey who I am, but Google doesn't get it. Is it what I'm doing?
There's two things that affect how they feel about you.
Yeah.
One of them is your on-page content. So what content is actually physically on your website? Now, some people have content on their website that they are completely unaware of. And I see this pretty often. Like, they'll have their website there, but then their designer or their developer will be developing someone else's site on their domain in a folder that is not accessible, but Google knows it's there. So let's say your site has 5 pages to it and it's about ceramics, and I'm just throwing this out just as an example. So you have 5 pages related to ceramics for your ceramics business. Now your web developer decides he's going to use your web space to develop his site for another client on there so he doesn't have to pay for his own. And he builds a site with 400 pages about blue suede shoes. So if that's the case and Google sees 400 pages about blue suede shoes, all of a sudden it's going to forget the ceramics. This is a blue suede shoe site. And that can really mess you up if you're trying to spend money to optimize for ceramics and you got all this content on something completely irrelevant. So that's what can happen on page. So you want to make sure you know what's on your site. There's all kinds of ways, that you can have stuff on the site. Like for me, I've been building and building and building on my website for the last 20-something years. And there's all kinds of stuff that's just back there that I forgot about. I'm still finding references to my photography days, when I had a lot of content about photography. So it's like, as I find it, I'm eliminating that stuff and slowly cleaning it up. But what I should have done, I should have just cleaned everything off the server and started over. That's what I should have done, but I didn't do that. So I kind of paid the price for a little while. But that's the on-page part of what Google is going to feel about your site. The other part is the part that you don't control, and that's the off-page stuff. So let's say you've got people that are linking to you, and let's say they know about your blue suede shoes stuff that you didn't even know about. And they're sending links now that the link says blue suede shoes. Well, when Google sees that link on someone else's site and they follow that link, the part of the link that's clickable is called the anchor text. So that's a major clue to Google on what the content is about on the other side when they click through to it. So if you have a bunch of websites out there in the world that are linking to you for different words that are not related to you, that could hurt you. That could make Google think that your site is about something that it's not. So that's kind of the 2 different areas that can affect how Google feels about your site and your content. And it also, that determines how they're going to rank you, what words they're going to rank you for, and what kind of traffic they're going to send your way. Because at the end of the day, all Google really wants to do is provide a good user experience. So they're looking at, multi-billion websites out in the world, and they're trying to categorize them to know which one is the best for any given content so they can send their users to the right place. And that's the 2 major things that they have at play to determine what that best content is. It's the content on your site, and it's the way people link to you. That's almost like a popularity contest. So if you've got a lot of different sites linking to you, you've got people in social media making mentions of you, it's how they do that. And typically they'll mention you by brand, which that's great. That works really, really well. That's a really strong signal for Google to be aware that your brand is out there and people know about it, and it lives on this particular website. So that's the kind of stuff that you really want to strive for. And that's what you'll discover using the display planner is if you do competitor research and you put your competitor's URL in there, it will show you exactly how Google feels about it, exactly what keywords they think is relevant. And again, same with your own. So I know I probably said that twice, but it kind of circles back around. That's what it's all about.
So can I ask you a follow-up question with that? If I'm using like a new WordPress template, and I don't have a developer, doing the first thing you said about using, doing that. So if I keep a clean website, and and then I'm targeting the right people, the people that are interested in my stuff, and getting them to click through and to link back to my website, those are two ways I can keep my message clean. Versus like just spamming. If I spam and send my message out to people who aren't interested, and if they anyway, does that make sense? If I just keep my own website clean, start from scratch, and then the others send, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing that the ACT program actually brings is the ACT program brings a massive benefit to search engine optimization. Most people don't realize that. And when I first introduced ACT, I introduced it as an SEO tool. It was like, Google started using their tool called RankBrain, which is artificial intelligence. And what it does is it measures the user experience. It sees how many people click through a particular link and then how they act once they find the material on the other side. And that's what they're using now to gauge relevance. So what I started teaching you better understand your audience and you better understand what they want, because if you don't give them what they want, they're going to bounce off, and that's a bad search engine signal. So that was really the first time when ACT even came onto my radar. And then I realized, wow, this is not only good for SEO, this is the key to conversion. And without conversion, SEO is kind of worthless. So that's kind of, in the very beginning, that's kind of what created the whole ACT idea to begin with. It was for search engine optimization. So creating the right content is crucial. And to create the right content, the only way you can do that is to research it. And that's our analysis piece prior to creation. That's why it's in that order.
So how would you know if there was content like that on your website?
Probably there's a couple of different ways to do it. If you go to Google and you type in site, that's SITE, and then the colon, the two dots over one another, and then put your domain, it will show you every page that Google has indexed on your domain. So that's one way to find them. Another way to find them is if you get an FTP program and you can log in and you can browse your files. If you're on a cPanel server, which a lot of people are, cPanel servers are very common these days, you can log into the cPanel control panel and they have a file manager and you can browse the files just like browsing them on your desktop. So you can see you usually have a main public HTML folder, and that's like the house for your entire website. And then you might have several subfolders in there for different content. And in SEO they call those silos, but they're just folders with relative content inside them. So you can just open the folders and start browsing and seeing what pages are sitting on your site. And if it's stuff you don't recognize, you can always take those URLs and plug them in and see what that page is. And if it's not necessary, you can just delete it. And any of those programs will allow you to do that. If you're in an FTP program or you're in the cPanel control panel, you just select the file and just hit delete and it's gone.
Cool.
So one thing I do want to caution you on, some of you guys have programs or have websites that are dynamically generated. And like, for instance, anybody that has a WordPress website, it's dynamically generated, so you're not always going to see the pages using that protocol. They're generating pages out of a database, and this is the same thing for a lot of commerce stores. So if you have an e-commerce store, again, a lot of those pages are dynamically generated from data. They're data-driven sites. So you're not seeing the files like you might think you see them. So be careful of deleting files if you don't know what they are, because you might need them to run your commerce store. So don't just go in and just start wiping out files you don't recognize. And that is only related to like HTML sites. What I would do just to verify before you delete a page is I would take that URL for that page, put it in a web browser and see what actually comes up. If it's just, content that you don't need anymore, you're probably safe to just delete it. If nothing comes up in the window, it might be a program file. So be very, very careful about, you don't want to just go do mass deletes. Like you find a folder and you think, yeah, I don't need this folder. So you wipe the whole folder out and there might be system files in that folder and now your website's broken. So be very careful. I would, if you're not familiar with web development, that's probably not a good job for you to be doing that. You might want to get a web developer and say, hey, could you go in and clean up my site and just get rid of any old content that's in here? That would probably be a better idea. The other thing too, and that, this is just from a standpoint of hosting. I've been in the hosting business since '95. Always make a backup before you start doing stuff like that. That way, if let's say, heaven forbid you do wipe out a system folder for some reason and your site disappears, you have that backup. You can always restore the backup or just, put those files back the way they should be. And you should also be using a host that runs, at least weekly backups for you. So you could always, back up to the last week. So that's important stuff. So, all right. Anything else related to the Google Display Planner and how to use that? Really, there's two ways to use it. You can use it for keywords to brainstorm, and you can also use it for websites to see what keywords is related to that website and what are the demographics related to that website based on those keywords. So that's really kind of the two big things. And I talked about this last week. I don't want you guys to get hung up on any one of these tools. If you're not getting the information that you think you should or whatever, you're not doing anything wrong more than likely. It's just it might not be there. You might be hunting for something that doesn't exist. And if that's the case, just accept it and move on. Just go to the next step and see what else you can find. It's not like all this stuff is in order and you don't have to do everything all the way through to get the result that you want. A lot of this is intuitive. So you're collecting as much data as you can and then making educated decisions. But this is the way to educate yourself to be able to make those decisions. The more information you have, the better choices that you'll make. So, make sense? All right, last chance here. Any other questions before we close out for tonight? How are you guys liking Monday movie night? Is that yeah, good.
Yeah, this is cool, John.
Good feedback. Yeah, I got several emails from people that watched the replay when I put it up, and they're liking it. So that's cool. I don't mind. I think this is a great idea. I think Cheryl brought this to my attention. She said, can we do Monday movie night? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? But then I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. And this is awesome because it gives me an opportunity to create a really good Q&A section for the site. So good job for bringing that up, Cheryl. and we're having fun too, right? So.
Hey, this is Dan.
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Hey, good. I'm glad you're having these because I've been working through the program and I thought I was doing it wrong because I was not able to kind of get through it. So, especially glad that I was working through Google Display Planner recently, and so this is very timely.
Perfect.
The last point you made about not having to go in order, so it seems like we're not really supposed to interpret too much about the results we're getting in Display Planner, right? It's more about pointing us in maybe the right direction and answering yes and no questions, but
exactly,
that's kind of a bigger picture answers, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people thought that they had to follow the system and everything was going to be clean and tidy, and it's never clean and tidy. It's like there's always a certain amount of interpretation, and no matter what you do, you're never going to do wrong, because you're trying to learn. Like I said, you're trying to educate yourself so you can make good choices. And one of the biggest choices that you'll make is what segment of the market are you going to attack first. And I always lean to the most profitable section. So what you're trying to do here with these tools is you're trying to educate yourself of the demographics, which one of these is the most profitable segment to go after. And again, there's no tool that's just going to throw that out and say, this is the one for you. You're going to have to learn, use the tools that I've put out there, get enough education in there about that, and then make decisions of, okay, I think based on what I know, not what I think. That's where you get into trouble, is when you go by what you think. When you're using these tools, you're going to be going by what you know. And if the data's not there, that tells you something. That tells you might want to rethink that market. Because if you're creating a campaign around a market that doesn't exist, that is ripe for failure. And that's what I'm trying to prevent. I'm trying to shortcut the system for you guys to get to the end as quickly as possible by giving you all the shortcuts. And that's really what this is all about. So I hate to see people go down the wrong path, knowing, I know what the outcome is going to be when I see it. And I will do everything in my power to stop that from happening. And this is just another way of doing that. It's giving you the education, giving you access to the information that you need to make better choices. So. All right, Cheryl looks excited about this info.
Oh, my Lions just ran it back for a touchdown.
Oh, is that what it is? I thought
yeah, the Lions are playing right now.
Oh, cool.
I'm double processing here tonight.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Good to know. I was pretty excited on the USC game Saturday night. I couldn't believe that was awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Dan.
Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
Hey, I don't want to jump the line for next week, but I've noticed the video that you put out for the Facebook insights, like the formatting, or I guess they changed the user interface just a little bit, and so it doesn't match exactly what you're showing. What they have currently doesn't match your video.
Okay.
So it's a little challenging doing the same thing.
Yeah. That's one thing that you're going to find. It's more, what I'm teaching you is more conceptual. I mean, if I can, I'll give you step by step, but the truth of the matter is, it's like SEO. I've been teaching SEO online since 2008, and every time I put out a new updated video on how to do keyword research, it's good for about maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and then they change something. So if you get the concept of what we're doing, the buttons might change, and they might change the names of stuff, but it's more understanding the concept of what we're trying to accomplish, and then just know if the buttons change, hey, I just have to adapt. And
okay,
because I could spin my wheels for the rest of my life trying to keep up with all the program changes of all these companies. But it's more the methodology that we're looking for. We're still going to do the same thing. I think the information under the hood in Facebook, I don't think that has changed. It might just be the way that you access it. So I'll take a look at that before we get in next week, and if it's anything major, I'll definitely address that. But thanks for bringing that to my attention too, because I wasn't aware. I haven't been in Facebook here in the last few weeks. I've actually been outsourcing that stuff. So, all right, guys, last chance. Anybody else? Last opportunity before we close out here. All right. Well, again, hey, thank you all for being on here. This is invaluable for everybody. Everybody is going to learn from this. So I appreciate you on here and asking the questions. That's what it's all about. That's the only way we can get them answered. So have a great week, and I look forward to next week when we get into Facebook Insights and move you right on down the path to the next level. So have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.